Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We've got some big news to discuss on Palantir's £480 million or $580 million contract or potential contract with the NHS. So a new article came out today by the Financial Times that's kind of casting some doubt on if Palantir is going to be able to get this deal. This is the UK consortium of companies takes on Palantir for the £480 million NHS data contract. Now, we've kind of known this was going to happen for a while. There's obviously been a lot of political pushback in the United Kingdom because they believe that Palantir is this evil spy data company that is stealing the people's data. And so a group of companies have come together saying that they can do what the NHS needs, which is basically an entire digital transformation rehaul of their entire system, right? In a cheaper way and in a way that protects civil liberties as per these companies. So the companies which include Vor Health Technologies, Eclipse, and Blackpeer told the Financial Times they could provide software at a fraction of the cost budgeted while also safeguarding UK patient data and reinvesting in the health system. The three companies which say they will do work alongside a number of UK universities have supplied IT to the NHS for decades and currently manage health data for more than 30 million British patients between them. So the NHS now is kind of dealing with this. Okay, we've been working with these companies for a while, and they've been helping us for 30 years. So should we give this deal to them, or should we give the deal to Palantir that started working with us during 2020 in the COVID vaccine distribution and helped us with backlogs over the past couple of years and has done a pretty good job with them as well. Now, Palantir is best known for its ties to security, defense, and intelligence. Its emergence as a strong frontrunner for the contract has led some NHS staff and medical trade unions to voice concerns about its suitability to run national health systems, as well as the dangers of the NHS relying on a single private company for its key functions. A chief executive of Eclipse, one of the companies that's competing against Palantir, says, "We know that the NHS is a very complex system and different from other healthcare systems around the world, particularly in terms of its meticulous protection of patient data." That's a lot of shade at the United States healthcare system. "We were very keen that the NHS stays in control of the data and to reinvest the revenue in frontline NHS services." Now, the deadline to participate in the process passed early this month, and the contract is expected to be awarded in the autumn of this year. So we are going to see ultimately who is able to get this contract. Palantir became the NHS go-to data analytics provider during the pandemic. Its Foundry software was used in the management of ventilators and PPE equipment, as well as the delivery of nationwide vaccination programs. The group landed a €23 million contract, £23 million contract, which is about $34 million, to tackle patient waiting lists in December 2020. Now, I've got a couple of things to say about this, and then I want to get into some more analysis from what other people are saying. The companies that are competing against Palantir for this, their argument is we protect patient data and we can do the job better, and we've been supplying IT to the NHS for 30 years. Why haven't you solved the problem? I mean, to me, this is a very simple question, right? If there's a consortium of other companies that are willing to do what Palantir is, able to do pretty much just with their ontology feature, their Foundry software. I mean, what one company can do in one overhaul, you need 17 other companies or however many there are to work together to do it. First of all, it's just stupid. Why wouldn't you go with one solution? Why would you go with a group of different companies? There's a very famous saying that there's too many cooks in the kitchen sometimes, and that's not good for the food, right? You have to have something that is consolidated and that makes a lot of sense and that's cohesive. Second of all, why haven't you solved the problem yet, right? If the NHS is in a pretty bad situation. I have a lot of subscribers on YouTube that watch my content that are from New England, and constantly they're DMing me and putting in the comments that the NHS sucks, the backlog sucks, the management sucks, the distribution of it sucks. And I'm not trying to be biased as an American that has a system that's nothing like the NHS. I'm just repeating what people have told me, that they're in the UK and their healthcare system sucks. And I think the NHS has acknowledged their healthcare system sucks. Even Rishi, the new Prime Minister of the UK, literally talked about Palantir publicly, saying how much they've been able to do by reducing backlogs by 28% at Chesley and Westminster hospitals in the UK. So I don't think I'm on an island here. There's a lot of people that agree that the NHS simply has a bad system and that system needs to be revamped and it needs to be digitally transformed. If Palantir was able to do COVID vaccine distribution, and Eclipse and Blackpeer, or whatever it's called, weren't able to do that, well, that makes you wonder, why did the UK, that is so anti-private companies, so anti-companies that work in defense, why did they go to Palantir? I mean, why did the UK Ministry of Defense just give Palantir $75 million? Or pounds, so I think it's $91 million. Why did that happen? Why did Palantir get a $34 million contract with them over the past 2 years to reduce backlogs and digitally transform different parts of the NHS system? Not an entire overhaul, but work with them in different ways. Why did that happen? Or why is Palantir's biggest office in London? I mean, at some level, you've got to start asking yourself this question of just Is it just the political backlash and the stupid articles that are written about them that's not going to be able to get them this deal? Or is it something more fundamental in terms of the technology not being able to get the job done and other companies having better tech? I don't think it's about other companies having better tech. I just don't. And call me crazy. I've only done 1,000 videos on Palantir. I've researched them pretty in depth. I do not think other companies have even 1/10 of the level of technology that Palantir has. Maybe they can get the job done for cheaper, but this is people's health we're talking about. Why, cheap is like, that's just, I mean, like, for a population that cares very deeply about their data and private health, I don't know why you would want to be cheap in this regard. I mean, that's like one of the worst things to be cheap about. So like, that's the first thing. I think that makes literally no sense. And second of all, if we know Palantir has the best technology, they can get the job done. I think the UK, the NHS doesn't want to spend another 5 years, because this is an entire 5-year contract, doing something that doesn't really work. Maybe it kind of works, but it doesn't really work. And Palantir is there to make sure things really work. And then 5 years from now, have a pretty crappy system and then have to pay Palantir. Or in the middle of this contract, have to break the contract and then still have to pay Palantir. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. So I think the United Kingdom and the NHS and the executives there need to think very long and hard before they make this decision, because there's a world in which Palantir doesn't get this deal, which would suck, because if they get this deal, it's another $100 million per year over 5 years added to their bottom line, or added to their revenue, which is great for their growth. But I also think there's a world in which the deal does happen because someone at the NHS wakes up and is like, this is ridiculous. We called this company to do our entire COVID vaccine distribution for a reason. All these other companies that have been helping us for 30 years haven't been able to even offer somewhat of a solution to really revamp our entire system. We need to do this now. This is a pivotal moment. We should probably go with the company, even if we have to pay a couple $100 million more, because the taxpayers are funding it anyway. And if we're giving them a crappy system, why are we using their tax dollars to fund this, right? It's the whole point of a socialized healthcare system. If we're going to use taxpayer dollars, we might as well pay for the best thing to get the job done. And that would be Palantir. Now, the final thing I want to say is this concern over privacy and data rights. Obviously, this is just not a concern. Palantir is not stealing data. Palantir is not, they're not manipulating data. They are helping organizations better use their data. They don't sell data. If anything, Facebook is selling, the people's data in the UK to health advertisers and healthcare companies that are looking to advertise way more deeply than whatever Palantir is going to do with their data. They are going to optimize and manage that data and make sure things are more efficient and effective and less bureaucratic and less backlogs and all of this fancy stuff that's actually having an impact, not selling their data to the highest bidders. So that's just propaganda that a lot of these companies that in this consortium are trying to influence the UK government to understand. I would hope people in the UK government are smart enough to realize that if your department or your Ministry of Defense gave Palantir $91 million, maybe Palantir's not the most evil company in the world. Maybe they're not actually doing anything bad. Maybe if you just watch FounderCon, where you have very, very big companies like Tyson and BP talking about how much they save us money, maybe they're actually doing something important. And, ultimately Palantir is to blame on this because they've published a blog post in the past couple months trying to articulate why they're good with the NHS. I know, they are under regulations and they have a certain way of talking on social, but I think they've had to do more. I mean, they hired the chief data AI scientist, or the former head of AI at the NHS, to work with Palantir. So they've been doing lobbying from that respect. But maybe socially they've just had to keep up a better image to fight back some of the propaganda, because at the end of the day, if they can't fight that back, they're going to lose out on a lot of these deals. So we'll see what happens. That's the update. I still have hope that Palantir can get this deal, but I don't know, because at the end of the day, if I'm in the UK and there's companies saying they're going to do it cheaper and Palantir has this negative connotation, maybe I just give it to them. So we really have no idea what's going to happen. If Palantir gets the deal, it's a big FU to everyone who says they're an evil spy data company that really doesn't have, the best tech in the world, because them getting this deal in this environment, in this economy, proves they can really get the job done. But this is going to be a hard one to land. So let's see if they get it done. Thank you guys so much for listening, watching. Thank you for being here. Also, one thing I wanted to show you is what CodeStrap said underneath Tom's tweet about this. He said, right, because it's a much better idea to go with a group of companies and a non-existent product than a single entity with a proven product. What could go wrong? The only people at the NHS who would take this seriously are using any other metric other than competence. And I think that's how we should end the video. Thank you guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.